Recording has started.
Okay, I have 5:36. Chair Schmidt, would you like to introduce the meeting?
If you could please do that, Cheryl.
Okay. This is the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force Complaint Committee meeting. The City and County of San Francisco. This is a remote regular meeting. To watch the meeting, it's https://bit.ly/30GXPEO. The password is sunshine. Public call-in number 415-655-0001. The meeting ID is 2482-504-7163 ##. The date is August 16, and this meeting began at 5:36. Remote access to information and participation. In accordance with Governor Newsom's Executive Order N3320, declaring a state of emergency regarding the COVID-19 outbreak, and Mayor London and Breed's proclamation declaring a local emergency issued on February 25, 2020, including the guidance for gatherings issued by the San Francisco Department of Public Health Officer, aggressive directives were issued to reduce the spread of COVID-19. On March 17, 2020, the Board of Supervisors authorized their board and committee meetings to convene remotely, via Microsoft Teams, and will allow remote public comment via teleconference. Members of the public may participate by phone or may submit their comments by email to cheryl.leger@sfgov.org. All comments received will be made a part of the official record. Sunshine Ordinance Task Force agendas and their associated documents are available at sfbos.org/sunshine. As the COVID-19 disease progresses, please visit the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force website regularly to be updated on the current situation as it affects the legislative process. Chair Schmidt, do you want to read meeting decorum?
Yes, I will. Any member of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force may call for decorum due to disorderly conduct of meeting participants. Persons who engage in threatening and or menacing behavior may be asked to leave.
Okay. Are we ready for the first item?
Yes, please.
Item number 1, call to order, roll call, and agenda changes. Let's see, roll call. Member Wolf.
Present.
Member Wolf present. Member Stein.
Present.
Member Stein present. Chair Schmidt.
Present.
Chair Schmidt present. We have a quorum. I am not aware of any agenda changes. What about the committee? Are you guys aware of any?
I am not.
No, I know there's at least one request to continue, but I don't think that constitutes an agenda change because there was no consent to it. That's on number 7. So let's say there's none.
Yes, there was a request to continue, and Anonymous did not agree to that request, so it is not out in the open. So the mayor's office has to send someone.
You don't need to speak about it. There's just no change, and please move on.
All right. No agenda changes. The next.
Yeah, when we get to number 7, Cheryl, we'll get into what you were telling us just now.
All right. The next item, Chair Schmidt.
Yes, please. Number 2.
Item number 2, approval of the July 19, 2022 Complaint Committee meeting minutes. I have a copy of the minutes. Does anybody have any suggested changes?
Anything, any suggested changes from any member, or it sounds like.
I can make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second. Okay, let's go to public comment.
Hang on.
Yes, if there are any members of the public who would like to make public comment on item number 2, approval of minutes, you can press *3 to raise your hand, or otherwise use the application to raise your hand at this time. I have one person who had their hand raised since the beginning of the meeting. I don't know if you want to make public comment on this item. Cheryl, please let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready for the first public commenter.
Okay, once I unmute you, you can begin your public comment.
Can you hear me okay?
Is Mr. Pilpel?
It is.
Yes,
Just
sir.
one thing on the first page of the draft minutes. The date listed is July 19th, 2021. I believe it should be 2022. That's all. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we have one more person who had their hand raised. Once I unmute you, you may begin your comment.
How do I raise my hand?
May I ask your name? Are you making public comment?
She is not making public comment. She is just accidentally raised her hand. I will clear that for now, but at a later point in time, you can press *3 to raise your hand or lower your hand. That concludes parties who wish to make public comment on the minutes for today.
Okay, so we're ready for a vote.
Member Stein.
Yay.
Member Stein, aye. Member Wolf.
Aye.
Member Wolf, aye. Chair Schmidt.
Aye.
Chair Schmidt, aye. Moved by Member Stein, seconded by Member Wolf to approve the July 19, 2022 meeting minutes of the Complaint Committee.
Okay, and so next will be as number 3 when you're ready, Cheryl.
Item number 3, public comment. Members of the public may address the committee on matters that are within the committee's jurisdiction, but not on today's agenda.
Yes, at this time, if you'd like to make public comment, you can press *3 to raise your hand if you're calling in. And if you're connected via the application, you can use the raise your hand symbol via the application. Give me one moment. Cheryl, please let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready for the first speaker.
Okay. Mr. Petrellis, I noticed you typed into the comments that you wanted to make public comment, but you did not raise your hand. I'm just wondering if you still wanted to make comment. Mr. Petrellis, I have unmuted you. Mr. Petrellis, you might be logged in 2 different manners because I have you on the application where I have unmuted you. I will go ahead and move on, and hopefully we'll get back to you and eventually get you on. So,
Okay.
caller, I've unmuted you. You may begin your comment.
Hi, this is Michael Petrellis calling on my landline. I do not have a microphone on my computer where I am watching you. So that's why it's confusing between the application and my landline that I'm speaking on. For general public comment, I would like to say that I believe the Board of Stoops must allocate money to air all of the meetings of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force on SF.gov TV and all of its platforms. That's my public comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and move on to our next caller.
This is anonymous number 3. Let me know when I may begin.
Are you ready, sir?
I am.
Go ahead.
Good evening. This is anonymous number 3. You may know a few weeks ago, this task force ruled against various former members of the redistricting task force for various violations of the Sunshine Ordinance in refusing to respond to requests both from me and a member of the press. And you also, interestingly enough, ordered various other departments to produce the records and or figure out how to contact those former members of the redistricting task force. The clerk of the board refused to do anything, But the city attorney's office gave an interesting response. They said they don't have custody of the records, but that they apparently know that the former members do still have access to their SSGov accounts, which was a concern I know raised at that meeting, and that the city attorney's office has apparently informed the former redistricting members that they are legally required to respond. So I guess that's some blip of good news. The Department of Elections, which is the one department who would actually have also have custody of the SSGov accounts used by the redistricting task force members, apparently has not responded at all. So that's that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. If there's anybody else who would like to make public comment at this time, you can press *3 to raise your hand, or otherwise raise your hand through the application. I will give you a few moments to make any indications of public comment. I do not see any additional members of the public indicating that they wish to give general public comment at this time.
All right, public comment is closed. Number 3, and we can move on to number 4, our first of the complaints for the day.
Item number 4, file number 22082, complaint filed by Michael Petrellis against the Department of Public Health for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6721 by failing to respond to a records request in a timely and a complete manner.
All right, so what we're going to have here for all the complaints is we do want to hear from each of the sides, each of the parties. We're going to give you up to 3 minutes each to tell us about your case. We've already seen what's in the written material, so you don't necessarily need to repeat that. And after those statements, we may have questions for you from the members. We don't decide any cases here. We simply look at the cases, make certain determinations, such as does this involve public records or not? Does the task force have jurisdiction? Do we want to make recommendations? But decisions themselves would only be made after we review and would send the case for a hearing before the full task force. Okay, I'm going to ask the parties. I think Mr. Petrellis has already indicated he is present. Is there anyone here on behalf of, it looks like the Department of Public Health in number 22082?
If you are a party, you can raise your hand at this time so I can unmute you. Please do so at this time. Thank you very much. I believe that we have Aduku, who is indicated. Oh, they just lowered their hand. Oh, let me get the other person. I believe we have a Deirdre who has raised her hand as a representative for Department of Public Health. Please confirm I have unmuted your line.
Yes, Deirdre Hussey here from the Department of Public Health.
Great. Okay, thank you. Yeah, the technical side of this can be a little bit challenging. So we did find you, and so we do have now confirmation that both sides have a representative. And so we'll start with Mr. Petrellis to tell us about your case. When Cheryl's ready, you may go for up to 3 minutes.
Mr. Petrellis,
Okay.
are you ready to begin?
Yes, I am ready.
Go ahead, sir.
Hi, this is Michael Petrellis, and I made a request to the Department of Public Health in June for copies of a report, and I was instructed to submit the request to Next Request and its portal. And And the gist of my complaint is that the department should not have in any way made me contact next request for any reason. I am stating that the DPH should have accepted my request via email, and that would have been the end of it. Instead, I had a few email exchanges with a representative from Next Portal because I find their system is too confusing. And instead of having communication with DPH, I was having communication with this third party that I felt had no role whatsoever in processing my request. One thing that was very annoying was a division within DPH, the children's division, had nothing to do with my request, but then I got a message saying they had searched that division within DPH and found no documents. So it was just a hassle on top of a hassle. I have received the documents that I wanted, and there's no question that they have provided me with the records. I think that's enough.
Thank you. Okay, let's go ahead and hear from the other side. That's Deirdre, I remember. Yeah, I'm
Yes,
sorry, I
hi.
forgot the last name.
Hi, good evening.
Cheryl's going to give you kind of a signal that she's timing it. If you could just wait a second for that.
Deirdre, can you give me your last name, please? Spell it for me.
Hussey.
Huss?
EY.
Oh, EY. Okay, Deirdre Hussey. And you're with DPH.
Yes.
Okay, you ready to begin?
Yes.
Go ahead.
On Saturday, May 21st, Mr. Petrellis made a complaint to the Environmental Health Services regarding pigeon waste at 501 Castro. Aduku Ude entered the complaint on May 24th. Ms. Aduko's next day in the office, and an inspection was completed on the same date. Inspectors saw a pigeon's nest at the time of inspection. A notice of violation was issued to Bank of America on May 24th to remove the waste and nest materials. On June 1st, Mr. Petrellis received a voicemail message alerting him that DPH inspected his complaint and issued a violation. On June 24th, 2022, Mr. Petrellis opened his public records request via the Next Request portal. Seeing that the request pertained to a specific property address, DPH Sunshine team routed it to the appropriate subject matter experts in the Environmental Health Branch. On the request due date of June 24th, responsive records were released to Mr. Petrellis. On the same day at 1:05 p.m., he sent a message via Next Request portal that he was unable to access the PDF file records that was released to him and to please advise. Mr. Petrellis filed a complaint with the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force on June 23rd, which is before his records request had come due. At 1:29, 25 minutes after he received we received his complaint that he couldn't access Next Request portal, the DPH Sunshine team emailed Mr. Petrellis the records directly. We received no further communications from him reporting any further barriers to receiving his records. The Department of Public Health responded to this case fully and in a timely manner. No due dates were missing. We responded immediately within 30 minutes when Mr. Petrellis reported he had difficulty accessing his records. Although Next Request is the city system for processing public records requests, we have never refused to communicate or send records to Mr. Petrellis by email when he requests. We are currently actively responding to a records request Mr. Petrellis filed via email, which he opened on July 18th. It is unclear why he is claiming in this complaint that he was forced to use NestQuest when we regularly respond to him via email. It is also unclear why he's claiming we did not respond in a timely or thorough manner. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Huffey. All right, now we may have some questions from members.
This is Member Stein. This is a question for Deirdre Hussey. What date did you send the records to him directly?
The request was on June 24th, and we sent him the records on June 23rd.
Wait, sorry. What day did you send him the records on June 23rd?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That was my only question.
Was June 24th.
This is Chair Schmidt.
Excuse me. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I was just looking at my notes. The request due date was June 24th, and we sent the records on June 24th. My apologies.
Okay, thank you.
I was looking at the wrong date on my notes. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I've got a question, Chair Schmidt, here to Mr. Petrellis. Do you have a sense of what you would say was violated here, and you're seeking a finding of some kind that there was a violation or there were violations?
I am seeking clarification about making the request to the agency and not having any reason to deal with a third party. At the DPH suggestion or recommendation, I had to deal with the third party because if I remember correctly, the responsive records were posted to Next portal, Next request. I couldn't access them, and that's why I was dealing with a representative from that company. None of that should have happened. I'm asking if this committee accepts my complaint and it is eventually heard by the full task force, I would like for them to clarify if the DPH has any reason to shunt my request over to Next Portal without my request, or if they can make me in any way engage with that third party.
Great. Okay. Thank you. That's exactly what I was trying to find out. Thanks for that answer. Any other questions, members? Okay. We have.
Sorry, I'll also ask Deirdre Hussey. Are you the custodian of records for DPH?
I am not the custodian of records. The custodian of records for DPH reports to me, and she was unavailable this evening. She's also new to the job.
Okay. And is DPH aware that requests can be submitted in any form, not just through Next Request?
Yes. Although Next Request is the city system for processing public records requests, we have never refused to communicate or send records to Mr. Petrellis via email when he has requested it.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know if we have any further questions for the parties. So, members, should we pass this to the task force? What would you like to do with it?
This is Member Stein. I'm not sure that this really needs to go to the full task force. I feel like the thing that's being requested is a timeliness violation, and I don't see the timeliness violation because the records are actually presented in 10 days. I agree with Mr. Petrellis that he shouldn't have to use Next Request to access his records or to make a request, although I know in this case he didn't make a request through Next Request. I'm just not sure that there's a real violation here. I would love to be able to send a notice to DPH that they should just respond in the manner, in the communication format that was preferred by the requester. But I don't see a violation here.
Yeah, I mean, the timing, it does seem like the respondent, it was relatively on it in terms of responding. We certainly see of worse cases than this in other cases. And so the question would be, whatever was done to sort of encourage or, like Mr. Petrellis said, shunt Mr. Petrellis over to next request, is that something that would constitute any kind of a violation? And I don't know.
I'm just wondering if, I mean, we don't really have a mechanism in place yet to take something from a committee and just say, put it to a consent calendar, right? Like we're trying to get that through. It almost seems like, does this need to be a full hearing? It doesn't seem like it, but I don't know that we have any other way to process it at the moment.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if what we'd have 2 or 3 votes on here in terms of a recommendation. I think that the predicate items that we deal with here, public records, jurisdiction, those are established. And so I think in one fashion or another, we are going to be sending this to the task force. So I guess all we have left is, what do we want to recommend? Do we want to recommend a no violation finding? And I don't know if I can make that recommendation myself. I'm a little bit leaning toward no recommendation myself.
Okay.
If that's, but I don't, because I don't know. We've dealt with next request in other situations, and it's been, it's kind of a weird factor where someone has a legitimate interest in not using next request. Yes, okay, here we go. Member Wolf, we finally get to hear from Member Wolf.
So I was just waiting for you guys to finish, but I would say, whatever form a person had initially made the request, should be the form that should be maintained. The ordinance is clear that a request, it's actually as part of the CPRA and not part of the ordinance, that a request can be made in documentary form or in oral communication. If a person had a disability and the next request system did not work with their adaptable or assistive technology, then they would not have been able to receive it. And I think it would be considered not, would be considered inappropriate for a custodian to transfer the that way. So I'm just giving some background into why I think this is within the jurisdiction of the task force. I agree. I don't think that we should move a recommendation forward. I think we should just agree to that it is within the jurisdiction of the task force. We have complied with the 45-day rule, and let the task force have the deliberation on it.
Sounds like a motion.
It is. I'll make that motion.
Okay, I'll second it.
Okay, we're ready for public comment.
Okay, so we're saying this is within the jurisdiction. Are we saying the records are public and forward to the task force?
Yes.
With no recommendation.
All right.
No recommendation.
Hey, if there are any members of the public who would like to make public comment on this item, you can raise your hand at this time by pressing *3, or otherwise raising your hand through the application. I believe we have one person. When you're near Cheryl, when you're ready, I will unmute them.
Okay, the first speaker, could I have their name, please?
Hi, this is anonymous number 3. Please let me know when I may begin.
you ready, sir?
I am.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I believe I don't have the relevant court citation on the tip of my tongue, unfortunately, but there is a ruling within the context of the CPRA that the government cannot impose any end user terms or conditions upon someone receiving public records. I believe I have successfully used that citation and argument here, essentially on the same exact topic that Mr. Petrellis has. And there's also a provision of the CPRA, and it's discussed in that case, that does not allow a government to allow any third party to control access to records. And so when you use Next Request, you have to agree to their terms and conditions. You have to agree to their privacy policy. They get access to certain information about you. And so I don't believe the city can ever require someone to click through to a Next Request or anything else like a OneDrive or any of these other things where they require you to agree to terms and conditions of a third party. And those terms and conditions are always more restrictive than the rules in the CPRA. I will send the citation to the appropriate case as a public communication to the task force. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have other public comment on this item?
Reviewing the list, I do not see any additional public comment on this matter.
Okay, let's have a vote.
Member Wolf?
Aye.
Member Wolf, aye. Member Stein?
Aye.
Member Stein, aye. Chair Schmidt?
Aye.
Chair Schmidt, aye. Moved by Member Wolf, seconded by Member Stein, that there is jurisdiction, the records are public, and to forward the case to the task force with no recommendations. Is that correct? Member Wolf?
Yes, that's correct. Thank you.
Chair Schmidt, on to the next case.
Yes, please.
Item number 5, file number 22083, complaint filed by Sophia Deanda against the Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6721 by failing to respond to a public records request in a timely and complete manner.
Okay, first off, let's see who is here to speak on this matter. Is Ms. Deanda? Let's see, the name was Deanda. Let's see. Yeah, Sophia Deanda, are you present?
If you are present, please raise your hand by pressing *3, or otherwise raising your hand at this time through the application. And also, if the departmental representative is present, if you could also raise your hand.
Okay, I'll give Sophia Deanda a moment, and please speak up if you are here. But let me see if anyone's here from the mayor's office, the housing office, housing and homeless.
We have.
Oh, apologies, Victor. Go ahead.
Oh no, I just wanted to indicate that you had raised your hand. Please introduce yourself.
Yes, hi, my name is Kira Geithman. I'm Associate Director for Policy and Community Affairs and the recently appointed Custodian of Records for the Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development. Thank you for having me.
Oh,
Okay.
terrific. Great.
Thank you. Sounds good. Are we hearing from Ms. Sophia Deanda? I'm assuming it's Ms., but I shouldn't say it. From Sophia Deanda, are you present?
I do not see anybody else indicating that by raising their hand. If you are online with us, please raise your hand by pressing *3 at this time. I'm not receiving any indications.
Okay. In this kind of, just for the future, we do sometimes have someone who comes in later and says they had technical difficulties, and I am open to going back myself if that happens. But on the other hand, in this matter, according to our rules, I believe that we would be tabling the matter and giving the petitioner 60 days to, I believe, reopen. Cheryl, what's the exact terminology? Do you, or Member Wolf?
Table without prejudice.
Yes, it's a complaint procedure item 7B, which is to table the matter, to table and file the matter per complaint procedure 7B, which indicates they have 60 days in which to let me know if they want to keep the complaint open. So I can do that tomorrow morning when I start reviewing my minutes.
I'll make that motion.
Oh, wait, can I ask a substantive question about this complaint?
Oh,
I think I've asked something similar before, and I know I was told no, but this idea about, like, can we table it with a secondary action in mind? Because as far as I understand it, the respondents affirmed this violation that she's seeking, which is 67.21, that they sent the documents late. And I believe they asked that it just go straight to compliance and amendments. And so I was wondering why is this coming to us? But then I'm wondering too, since we took the time to read it and look at it, if there is an affirmation and we're tabling it, I wonder, like, can we table it? But if it comes back up, say that it should go to compliance and amendments. Like, again, this is something I wonder, does it have to go to the full task force? There's an affirmation here of the lateness of the records.
What I would say to that is that if we tabled it and then somehow it came back to life, it wouldn't go straight to the task force. It would still have to go through a committee, I believe. However, what we could do is specify that it has to go to that committee and, let them deal with it.
Maybe
there was a request that they deal with it, if you'd like.
Yeah, I wonder if Bruce wants to respond, because I thought this would fit into our, new system of, where we have affirmation, just being able to do it as a consent calendar type thing. But
yeah, I know what you mean, and yet I don't know if that's the only violation that would be sought if the complainant was here. But
okay.
Member Wolf has
Yeah.
some. Go ahead.
So I would say, first of all, let's refrain from using the word table too often, because if we were to put this on the table at today's meeting, when the meeting ends, if it doesn't get lifted off the table, then it dies. So, and that's usually with regards to a motion would have to be made. So that's just basic Robert's rules thing. You could postpone it to another meeting, but no action can be taken on it until the task force has heard it and made an order. The committees don't have authority to do that. So even if there was an admission, all that means is that, as you were suggesting, Member Stein, that there is a positive affirmation, that there would have to be a positive affirmation from the respondent that there would be either they agree that they were in violation, they plead no contest, or they reject that there was any violation. For the first two, then it would go into a consent calendar, and for the last one, it would go to a full hearing.
They do affirm the allegations.
At least
so if they affirm,
the time issue. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's okay on that issue. What is the rest of the complaint here, though? It's just in timely manner anyway, right?
Correct.
So if that is all that the complaint is citing, then even if there are other violations, it all depends upon the presentation by the complainant.
Okay.
Right? And so if the complainant is only interested in the timeliness issue and not interested in any of the other violations, that we shouldn't put the task force on a fishing expedition to find other violations unless it comes up during a hearing. So I would suggest that this go in for a consent calendar based upon our current process. The project analytic, the project.
Right. So can I just ask you for project analytic or whatever it is called?
Yeah.
These consent count, these if a violation is affirmed and it should go to the consent calendar, it's still having to come through a committee for the committee to say, yes, this should go to a consent calendar? Or is this something the chair could just look at and say this couldn't go to a consent calendar?
No, actually, this should have been, this could have been done by the administrator. It would not, it doesn't need to come to committee. It goes straight from the administrator to consent calendar. So yeah, if there was a written admission, within the period of time that, they needed to respond.
Okay.
Although I agree with everything that I've just heard. But we do have to go back to the rule that says that the petitioner is supposed to be here today.
Right.
And
right.
So we've kind of got two things going on. I don't know if that takes precedence, or if the fact that, we've got an admitted violation that takes precedence. It's a little bit unclear to me.
I would suggest that we re-refer this back to the administrator and have since there was an active written admission of noncompliance, that it be forwarded to the chair of the task force for scheduling on a consent calendar. That's all. Simple.
That sounds like a good solution.
So I'll make that motion. I move to re-refer the complaint to the task force administrator and apply the letter of noncompliance by the respondent, the admission letter by the respondent to the task force chair to be scheduled on a consent calendar.
I would second that. I just wonder too, since we do have a respondent here, if there's any scope for hearing from them at all, or if we wouldn't want to do that because, okay.
I don't think it's necessary because if they already made the admission, there's no discussion. It's just going to move through the process quickly.
Okay.
I would say we don't have a need to have a statement of any kind. But on the other hand, Member Stein, I'm open to specific questions you may have, since we have that person here. And I would, in this kind of situation, I'd be happy to allow that.
I don't have any questions, and I see the letter saying that they affirm that, what was alleged about the lateness on, P47. I just thought if they're here and for some reason they say, wait, no, we take that back ourselves. I don't know, that they're here, we could hear from them, but I don't have any questions.
Okay. I'll just ask, as a matter of my discretion, the representative of the respondent, does what we're doing here make sense to you? Did you understand what we're doing?
Yes, absolutely. I'm really grateful for this opportunity to learn more about these processes and to work with you all on whatever next steps may be.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. And I appreciate you being here. So I think we may have had a second there. And let's go ahead and open this up to public comment. We have a motion.
Yes, if any members of the public would like to make public comment on this matter, you can raise your hand at this time. by pressing *3 or otherwise raising hand through the application. We have one person with their hand raised at this time. Cheryl, if you're ready, I'm going to go ahead and unmute.
Yep, I'm ready.
Hi, this is anonymous number 3. Please let me know when I may begin.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much. This is anonymous number 3. 2 comments. One, I do see how there could be confusion on the part of the complainant about whether or not they need to show up today. I know when I get these affirmation letters, I think I get this notice that I don't need to show up. And so it may be confusing to complainants when they do get an affirmation letter about whether or not they need to show up and whether or not there's an actual hearing. And second, it's not, so thank you for actually having the process that you don't immediately dismiss the complaint without prejudice. But I'm also not completely sure the right email addresses were noticed in this case. It may be, I just can't see it. So on the last page on the notice for this hearing, I see Mr. Petrellis, I see myself, I see various city people, and I see someone named Juan de Anda.
Yes, that is who that
and
person is.
May I continue?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Please continue.
And on the affirmation letter itself, it CC's Deanda Sophia, but it states there's no @ symbol in the email address on page 81. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Cheryl, it sounds like you have something. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I just wanted to let everybody know that I have had other complaints from this particular petitioner, and they actually go by 2 names. But if I want to contact this person, I have to use the Juan de Anda email address. That's where they get all their information. I've spoken to this person many times before, and I did not receive, all the communication that is written is in the agenda packet. I have not spoken with this person regarding this particular complaint, but that's what the situation is with her.
Okay. Got it. Thank you. All right. So let's see if there's anyone else for public comment. It does not sound like there's anyone else.
All right, just double checking. I do not see any other hands raised at this time.
Okay, let's go ahead with a vote.
Okay. Member Wolf.
Aye.
Member Wolf, aye. Member Stein.
Aye.
Member Stein, aye. Chair Schmidt.
Aye.
Chair Schmidt, aye. Moved by Member Wolf, seconded by Member Stein to move to refer the complaint to the Task Force Administrator and apply the letter of noncompliance by the respondent to the SOT, to the Task Force Chair, and to be scheduled on the consent calendar.
Great. Okay. When you're ready, Cheryl, we'll move to the next case.
Okay. Item number 6, file number 22084, complaint filed by Stillian Bizanski against Deborah Liu and the Office of the Treasurer and Tax Collector for allegedly violating Administrative Code Sections 6721 and 6725, California Government Code Section 6253C as in cat, by failing to respond to an immediate disclosure request in a timely and or complete manner.
Okay, parties, Mr. Bajanski, are you here today? Are you present?
I have one hand raised. I did unmute them. If you are a party to this matter, if you can raise your hand, and when unmuted, if you can announce yourself, it would be appreciated.
Yeah, either the petitioner or the respondent, if you could tell us that you're here and identify yourself.
Good evening. This is Catherine Sachs with the Treasurer and Tax Collector's Office, and I believe that Deborah Liu is here online as well.
Wonderful. Thank you for being present. Another call for Mr. Bajanski. Okay,
Can I just say I can see his name in the attendees list?
I'm on.
You can see Mr. Bajanski's name.
Correct. In the attendees.
Oh, you mean in the notice of appearance?
No, and when I look at the WebEx and I look at the attendee list of who's on, I can see a cell phone with his name.
Yes, I see that too.
Actually, yeah, and it's unmuted. So, Stilian, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hello.
There
we
we
heard
go.
him now.
Very good.
Okay, good. Thank you, Member Stein. I was about to shut it down. Okay, Mr. Bajanski, we now can hear you, and so we're ready to hear your matter. And so, starting with Mr. Bajanski, we have up to 3 minutes each. When Cheryl's ready, you can tell us, though we have read your documents, Mr. Bajanski, but you can tell us what you think we need to know here. Cheryl,
Mr. Bajanski, are you ready to begin?
Yes, I'm ready.
you may.
Go
Okay.
ahead, sir.
As always, there are two primary reasons I have submitted this complaint. First, I have submitted request 223702 back on June 24th, 2022. As per the guidelines of Government Code 6253C, the maximum allowed time to comply with this request is 24 days, which means the due date was Monday, July 18, 2022. Since the file was still open on July 19, 2022, I decided to proceed and open a complaint with the Sunshine Task Force. And the second reason I submitted this complaint is that I received a very valuable information from the Tax and Treasury team, which otherwise I cannot find. For example, from the last episode of Sunshine Ordinance Task Force Complaint Committee, we have learned that Deborah Liu I have propounded a total of 11 PRI requests and 8 sets of civil discovery. I'm wondering, as of now, how many PRI requests I have submitted and how many sets of civil discovery I have requested. Also, Mr. Liu mentioned that someone is retiring at the department, but at the same time, they're in process of hiring a new person. So I'm wondering whether they are able to hire that new person, so I can expect a better performance and service in the future. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. I'm still here. Sorry. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Now we can hear from the respondent.
Good evening. This is Deborah Liu
Ms.
from
Liu,
the Office of the Treasurer and Tax Collector.
Can I ask you to
Yes.
hold on just a second?
Yes.
Are you ready to begin?
I am.
Go ahead.
May I start?
Yeah.
Okay. This is Deborah Liu from the Office of the Treasurer and Tax Collector. Basically, we received a IDR on Friday, June 24th. On the same day, we responded by requesting the keywords from the PRA to our IT team. We received 1,500 records. We wrote to the requester that this did not qualify as an IDR, but we would treat it as a regular PRA request, in which we did. We started working on it the following week. One of the staff was on vacation that following week, but we did hire the second legal assistant, and he is still new and is being trained on it, and he worked on this. You'll see that on the chart. He's the second, number 2 staff person working on that, and we have been working on this diligent, responding, producing records, redacting various details because there is the ongoing litigation. So we have to be very careful that we don't release attorney-client documents or work product privilege documents. But you will see that we have been releasing documents regularly and as best that we can. The response has been closed, and we've responded on a rolling basis. We have spent, as of the date of July 29th, 71 staff hours, which is quite a bit. We have 2 people working on this one PRA.
Okay. Great. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was also going to say, I think it was during the week after the 4th of July. So on July 5th, when we did the release, that was when staff member number 1 came back and she did the release. But then after she got back from vacation the following week, July 5th, she was out for 2 days ill. So that I wanted to put that in there too. So you'll see we have like reduced hours.
Okay. Have you concluded? Is that the
Yes.
conclusion of your statement? Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, members. Any questions for the parties? Yeah, I see. I recognize Chair and Member Wolf.
Thank you. 2 questions, one for each party. Let's start with the petitioner, the complainant. Was this an IDR? I believe you said it was an IDR. And did you receive any kind of notice or response from the respondent by the end of the following business day?
Yes, in terms of IVR, the complaint is compliant. In other words, there's no violation when it comes to IVR, but there is a violation of maximum time to complete the request.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
And Ms. Liu, you mentioned something about converting this IDR into a regular request. Can you speak to that, please?
I hope I'm not misstating this, and Ms. Sachs can also assist. But what we do is when we determine that it cannot be, it's not the IDR qualified, we will treat it to respond as quickly as we can, but within the allotted 10 days. And if we deem necessary, then we have to do the extension. But here, we just continuously worked on it on a rolling basis. So what I'm saying, I guess, essentially is we could not have turned this over in a 24-hour time period, but we did let him know the very same day that it could not be treated as an IDR or that we couldn't respond fully within 24 hours.
Okay, so
or the next business day.
You read the section? So you read the section?
Well, you're bubbling up. What
Yeah,
did you say?
we can't hear you.
You're cutting in and out.
You can hear me?
Can you
Your
try
audio
again?
is cutting in and out.
I'm gonna switch. Okay, so that better?
May not. We don't know yet. It looks like it may still be patchy.
Just advice, maybe you have to move closer to the Wi-Fi because it looks like it's more like a Wi-Fi issue.
Can you hear me?
Not yet viable. I could hear little syllables, but not. I don't think we can hear you. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. This is just, everyone's got some, we all take a turn at this. the tech issues.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Let's try that.
Okay, so Ms. Liu, have you read the section of the ordinance regarding immediate disclosure requests?
I'm sure I have, but it's been a while. What is your question?
Okay, well, I just want to explain that how you're regarding an IDR and its processing is not correct. Number one. Number two, there is no allowance or privilege to anyone to be able to convert a IDR into a regular standard request unless the instructions to the petitioner were not followed. And primarily that instruction is that in the subject line or across the top of the page, it states very clearly that it's an immediate disclosure request. The response from you it's not within 24 hours, it's by the end of the following business day.
Right.
The response to you only needs to state whether you have the records or not. And if they are voluminous, that you would require an additional 10 days to respond with any records. And if you needed more time, that you would continue to do them on a rolling basis, which you had. So I just wanted to give you some clarification on how that process works. There was no expectation from at least there would be no expectation from the ordinance's perspective for you to respond with the entire request within 24 hours. The word 24 hours doesn't even exist in that section. So
Right, I know that. I just said that.
okay, I just wanted to make it clear that of that situation, because first of all, we don't recognize anyone to be able to change the status of an IDR to a different form of a request. That's the first thing that concerns me. The second part is that if you had continued to provide him with documents on a rolling basis, then that would have been appropriate. So then my question is when did you provide him with the first document?
Have you seen our response to? Go ahead, Catherine.
Oh, I was just going to say that regarding the immediate disclosure request, we did write Mr. Bazansky back on June 24th and let him know that we did realize he was submitting an immediate disclosure request, but it did not appear simple, routine, or otherwise readily answerable, and that's why we were not able to respond immediately or within the timeline to that. We did tell him that we would reach out no later than July 5th with responsive documents, and we did provide the first set of responsive documents on July 5th and the second set on July 8th, and then every week thereafter.
Okay, I don't know if you had any follow-up to that, Member Wolf, but if any of us, I don't think I have any questions at this stage. Member Steins does not. Member Wolf, and unless you have further questions, I think we could talk about what we're going to do with this. Are we going to send it? Certainly looks. I have, every time I see 1040 cited, I am starting to have more and more trouble with 1040, and I see the 1040 cited here. On the other hand, this is I can say to everyone here that the fact that a lot of these documents were screened out because of attorney-client privilege and work product. I mean, they're in litigation right now. That's my understanding. And so it certainly looks like that's not surprising. I don't have too much of a, I don't know if it would be fruitful to us to be looking at those issues. But the 1040 issue, whether or not we look at it in this case at the task force or not, it's something that, and I don't even know how many of these documents they eventually cited 1040 on. But that's really, I think there's enough here that we say, let's give this to the task force. Does anyone want to make any kind of recommendation on this? I don't know. We could again go with a no recommendation and send it on. I don't know. Members.
This is Member Stein. I think this is hard to, I guess this gets treated as an IDR because it was submitted as an IDR, but it certainly isn't a simple or routine request. They did start to release documents within, I guess, 11 days. There were some weekends in there, but it's a 10-day thing, so they're 1 day late in starting to release documents. But they did provide documents on a rolling basis. So I'm kind of on the fence. Like maybe I would want to recommend no violation, but I could also send it with no recommendation.
May I speak? This 4th of July is a holiday. It was
Right.
10 days otherwise.
Okay. Yeah.
I just don't think that the IDR language, includes looking at holidays. I don't think it says working days, but I don't have it in front of me right now.
Member Stein, I would, if you made a motion to recommend finding no violation, I would second it. Despite the issue with regards to the days, 1 day, et cetera, this is a case where I don't know if I'm seeing that this is the kind of thing where we would even need to find a violation. I don't know how we count days. Maybe we could look at that, but I just don't know if this is a case where we want to really spend much time on it. So
okay, so I'm happy to say that it's public records under our jurisdiction and forward it to the full task force with a recommendation of finding no violation, as records were provided on a rolling basis, starting from 11 days. After it was requested, and I just don't see a violation.
Okay, second. We can go to public comment, unless, I don't know if Member Wolf is, it could be that Member Wolf is briefly not present, but we have a motion and a seconded motion, so I think we should just go ahead.
Take public comment.
Yeah.
Okay, if any members of the public like to make public comment at this time, you can raise your hand by pressing *3, or otherwise using the application to raise your hand. We have 2 people with a hand raised at this time. I'll go ahead and unmute the first one.
This is Member Wolf. I lost my internet connection.
Okay, we have, okay, thank you, Member Wolf. Member Wolf is now present. Member Wolf just explained, we did consent between the 2 of us to a motion. And so we're recommending a finding of no violation between the 2 of us. So I figure we hear public comment, get a vote. If you
we recommend forwarding it to the task force with the recommendation.
Yeah, forwarded with the recommendation. Yeah. I don't know if you need to say anything right now. but maybe we could hear public comment, and then if you have something to say, let's hold off on that until after public comment.
Very good. Standing by.
Okay. Public comment.
Can I make one comment?
This is from the tax collector.
I'll
allow it. I'll allow it.
Thank you. I would just like to say for the record that under Civil Code of Procedure, section 2016.060, that when it's the last day to perform or complete an act as set forth in this title that falls on a Saturday, Sunday, or holiday, the time limit is extended until the next court day, closer to the trial date. So I'm just saying, if it falls on a holiday, you're supposed to get the next day. And
Can you
we did
repeat
the best
that
we can.
citation again?
Civil Code section, Code of Civil Procedure, I'm sorry, 2016.060. And I'm sure there's other better sites that basically says you get the next business day. I think there's also a rule of court that provides for that as well. It looks like it's under rule of court 1.10, subsection B. Unless otherwise provided by law, if the last day of a performance of any act is required by these rules is to be performed within a specific time period that falls on a Saturday, Sunday, or other legal holiday, the period is extended to and includes the next day that is not a holiday.
All right. Thank you. I would just, as a practicing lawyer, I would just say that it's possible that that provision would not apply outside of the procedures that are described in the CCP. But I don't know if we need to resolve that here. And I'm certainly familiar with the weekends and holidays extension. Okay, let's go back to public comment. And did we have anyone who wants to comment on the motion?
Anonymous number 3, please let me know when I may begin.
Ready, sir?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. A few pretty separate points. I'm pretty sure the respondent is correct in her conclusion, though I don't think her argument is right, because I'm pretty sure those rules limit themselves to actions under those rules. But I believe the courts have held CPRA also, deadlines also get extended under holidays. And I think you all have discussed it with regards to Thanksgiving in a prior case. Second, the litigation document exemption, I believe, has also been clarified by court cases to apply only to documents created specifically in anticipation of that litigation or during that litigation. And I believe it's also in the Sunshine Ordinance. Documents that were previously not exempt under the litigation exemption cannot then become, that were created during the ordinary course of business, cannot then become exempt because litigation is started later on, although that's separate from the attorney-client and attorney work product exemptions. And regarding Evidence Code 1040, it's basically just used as a catch-all because they can't use the catch-all in any of the cases that, at least in my cases where they have brought up Evidence Code 1040, you've never actually agreed with them that something was exempt under 1040 because they basically just use it as whenever they can't find an exemption that is on point, use 1040. But 1040 has specific requirements, including that the information was received in confidence. And then there's also a balancing test. So unless in this specific case, and I don't know the details of these records, they were received in confidence, the rest of Evidence Code 1040 isn't relevant. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Public comment, anyone else? It's not looking like there's anyone else for public comment. So I believe we are then ready. Was there someone else? Was there someone else for public comment on this matter? No?
Any additional hands raised?
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Victor. Okay. Let's have a vote.
Let me just chime in here for a second, if you don't mind.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Member Wolf. Please. Go ahead.
So I would agree that the okay, I got the prompt for some reason. The Code of Civil Procedure doesn't really apply here at all, and the ordinance is pretty explicit when it comes to whether it's calendar or business days. And for this section, 6725, it does state business days there, so I don't think that that's of any concern at that point. I just wanted to make that clarification. That's it. Ready for a vote.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Good to know. Okay, vote.
Member Stein?
Aye.
Member Stein, aye. Chair Schmidt?
Aye.
Chair Schmidt, aye. Member Wolf?
Aye.
Member Wolf, aye. Moved by Member Stein, seconded by Chair Schmidt, that the records are public, there is jurisdiction, and to forward the matter to the task force with a recommendation for no violation.
Okay, so when you're ready, Cheryl, we can call what looks like it's number 7.
Item number 7, file number 20113, complaint filed by Anonymous against Mayor Lyndon Breed, Hank Heckel, and the Office of the Mayor for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6721 by failing to respond to a records request in a timely and or complete manner, 6726 by failing to keep withholding to a minimum, 6727 failing to provide justification for withholding, and 6734 for willful failure.
All right, I'm going to assume that the anonymous that we've already heard from is the same. And so I'll ask, is there somebody here on behalf of the mayor's office?
If you can raise your hand at this time, it would be appreciated by pressing *3 or otherwise using the application to raise your hand.
Anyone here on behalf of the respondent in 20113, and that would likely be someone on behalf of the mayor's office, Mayor Lyndon Breed. Okay, we did get a request for continuance from Mr. Heckel, I believe. And as is his prerogative, the complainant did not consent to that request. I don't know if members wish to address that in any way, but at this point, I don't see a basis for continuing the matter. In addition, I believe that this matter would be continued anyway, just looking at what we do know already. Unless members have any thoughts on the continuance issue, I think we should consider that the mayor's office is not here and that we should go ahead and hear from the complainant. And I am also not sure if Member Wolf is here again.
I am.
Oh, you are here. Okay.
Yeah, I concur.
Okay.
As per our complaint procedure, if the complainant does not agree to the continuance, it says here, if the complainant does not agree to the continuance, the request for continuance is not made within 5 business days of the respondent is requesting a subsequent continuance, the continuance shall be granted by a simple majority of the members present. So it's up to us if we want to grant it or not.
Okay. So I guess I'll just say that request is before us now. If a member wants to make a motion to grant it, then this would be the time. I'm not going to make the motion myself. I don't think there's any interest in that. So I believe that we are going to go forward with this and see if we're going to send it to the task force. Let's go ahead and Anonymous, you have up to 3 minutes to tell us about the matter. Tell us about the case. You may proceed.
Excellent. Please let me know. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
All right.
Are you ready to begin, sir?
I am.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. This is Anonymous, number 3. All 3 cases from me today are regarding future, or also known as prospective, calendar entries. There is no dispute, I believe, in any of these cases, but I guess I'll stick to this one, that these records are public records, which is to say that they're records about the conduct of public business, prepared, owned, retained, or used by the government. I don't believe there's any dispute over your jurisdiction. In fact, you have previously ruled on multiple future calendar cases in the past. In this case, there was approximately 2 weeks, this specific one, this only applies to this one, there were approximately 2 weeks of future calendars requested. That request was denied on the basis of a variety of different citations. I think the citations are the same exact citations they have discussed with you in the past. I will go through them here. Their argument is 6254F, which is security procedures of a local police agency. I would agree with the respondent that they can redact information about SID bodyguards that the mayor has. That is a security procedure of a local police agency. I don't believe it applies to anything else. I'm pretty sure you all agreed with me about this last time. They argue Evidence Code 1040. Evidence Code 1040 allows them to withhold things that meet 2 of 3 conditions. The first condition is that the information was received in confidence by a public employee in the course of their duties. I don't see how the mayor, it doesn't make any sense to say that the mayor is receiving her own information in confidence, and then they have to meet one of the other 2 clauses, that it would be a violation of state or federal law to disclose it, or it would meet a certain balancing test. But since the information was never received in confidence by the mayor, about the mayor herself, I don't see how this applies. And then they argue generally that Times Mirror applies. I think the only new argument I will tell you, if this goes to the full task force, is that Times Mirror was a pre-Proposition 59 case before the constitutional amendment that requires narrow interpretation of laws and court rulings that limit disclosure while requiring broad interpretation of court rulings and laws that promote disclosure. And due to that amendment, the records that were previously exempt under Times Mirror were re-requested by the First Amendment Coalition from the governor. If you remember, that case is about the governor's calendars, and through pretrial settlement, the governor did disclose the information previously exempt under Times Mirror. But otherwise, pretty much standard arguments I've given you before. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Members, any questions for Anonymous? All right, I will ask, is it part of your allegations here are that there were excessive redactions of documents? Is that correct?
At the time I filed this complaint, it was they wouldn't give me anything at all.
Yeah, okay. Have you received anything since then that you believe was excessively redacted?
I don't think have gone back and fixed this one as far as I know, but I will certainly check. I don't believe so, because right, and if you all remember, they use 2 different arguments. One argument is they don't have to produce anything at all, and then the other argument is they can withhold certain details about meetings. The reason they insist that I guess I have to bring this through as a full new complaint is you only made those detailed decisions as part of a compliance hearing and not as an original order of determination. So
okay, thank you. Any questions, Member Wolf? I think we have you on phone now.
Nope, I have none.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is Member Stein. I don't have any questions either.
All right. So what would you all like to do with this? I'm going to just say that I believe we have made rulings in the past with regards to Times Mirror, and well, I'll say this just on Times Mirror, since we have 3 cases up today that involve Times Mirror. I don't think it would apply in the city attorney context or the sheriff's context. I don't think that they are at the level of government where they could compare themselves to the governor. On the other hand, I think that the mayor of San Francisco, or maybe, a couple of other government officials in California might be able to take advantage of Times Mirror. I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence on that one, but I would probably be outvoted at task force on it. So I just wanted to mention that would be my reading of Times Mirror here. But I think that, this one looks like it probably should just be passed on to the task force on a motion.
Yeah, this is Member Stein. I also read Times Mirror for this case, and there's really nothing in there that suggests that it needs to be generalized beyond the governor. So I'm kind of, I tend to agree with the arguments of the petitioner there. I also think, I'm ready to make a motion that these records are public and under our jurisdiction, and to forward to the task force for consideration of whether records can be withheld in their entirety due to personal security concerns, and whether doing so now constitutes a willful violation of misconduct. Section 67.34 in light of our earlier order, particularly order number 19103.
I'll second that, except I'm not prepared to make a recommendation on 6734. I think the task force needs to...
Right, I'm just saying we should consider whether it constitutes that a willful violation. I'm not recommending that we do, but that we look at it.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, I didn't get, was that your motion?
Yes, that the records are public and under our jurisdiction, that we want to forward it to the task force for consideration of whether they can be withheld in their entirety due to personal security concerns, and whether doing so constitutes a willful violation of misconduct.
Hang on. Withheld under what?
Whether it constitutes a willful violation of misconduct, which is section 6734 of the ordinance. And I say particularly in light of our order number 19103, which addresses this issue. So I'm just trying to make it a little bit easier for the task force by pointing them to where, I think the relevant issues to discuss here are. But it's just a recommendation that they look at those issues.
Okay, I believe we have agreement with our second, so we can open this if Cheryl, if you think we have this resolved in terms of the language, we can go to public comment.
Do you want to shall I read it one more time?
Sure.
Stein? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, sure.
Move that the records are public, they are under jurisdiction, and forward for consideration to the task force or whether they can be held in their entirety due to security concerns, or whether they can be withheld under willful violation, misconduct, which is 6734, and should take consideration of earlier order of 19103. Am I getting that right?
Largely, I would just say consideration of whether the records can be withheld in their entirety due to personal security concerns.
Okay.
And whether doing so constitutes a willful violation or misconduct.
Security concerns, and whether they what?
whether it constitutes a willful violation or misconduct under 67.34 in the Sunshine Ordinance, particularly in light of our order number 19103.
Okay. I think I got it.
Thanks.
If there are any members of the public who like to make public comment on this motion, please raise your hand by pressing *3 at this time. I do not see indications of a public comment for this matter.
Thank you. Let's have a vote.
Member Stein?
Aye.
Member Stein, aye. Member Wolf?
Aye.
Member Wolf, aye. Chair Schmidt?
Aye.
Chair Schmidt, aye. Okay. You're on to item number 8. Item number 8, file number 20114, complaint filed by Anonymous against Dennis Herrera and the City Attorney's Office for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6721, failing to respond to a records request in a complete and timely manner. 6726, failure to keep withholding to a minimum. 6727, failure to justify withholding. 6734, willful failure and official misconduct.
Okay. Let me see if there's a representative here from the respondents.
Hi, yes, this is Jen Court from the City Attorney's Office.
Okay, got it. Okay, so we have parties are here. We'll go ahead, hear from Anonymous first.
Please let me know when I may begin.
Okay, are you ready, sir?
I am.
My battery's done. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much. Almost identical case. The interesting things that are different here, so just to put it on record, this is about future calendars again. This is about me requesting future calendars, them arguing initially that they don't have to provide them at all, based on very similar arguments. And I want to talk about why the arguments are different in the case of the city attorney than the mayor's office, as in they're weaker, even weaker for the city attorney's office. The argument made by members of this committee about Times Mirror are exactly right. I would agree with them. I don't see, by that argument, literally everyone can make this argument that Times Mirror says, I don't have to give information about my future calendars. That's not what Times Mirror says. Times Mirror says that based on Government Code 6255 and the balancing of, in those circumstances, they found that information didn't need to be disclosed. That doesn't mean that that's like somehow a rule that none of this information needs to be disclosed. And that was, by the way, based on 6255. Of course, the respondents will argue that this request happened during the COVID rules, which is why they can use 6255 and which is why they can use Times Mirror. But I would argue, even if they can, it still wouldn't apply to this information. I already told you why Evidence Code 1040 doesn't apply. And this is interesting because I don't even believe 6254F applies for Dennis Herrera at the time he was a city attorney. The mayor does have a police protection detail. I am not aware. They didn't answer my question when I asked them about this, whether the city attorney's office has a police protection detail. I guess if he does, or specifically if he did at the time I made this request, maybe 6254F can apply with regards to the security procedures of the police agency. I don't know in that respect whether their argument is that they are a police agency, although if they want to argue that the city attorney's office is a police agency, they'll be subject to all sorts of other disclosure requirements that they probably don't want to be under SB 1421. And finally, the city attorney, in his other role as supervisor of records, himself issued a written determination that future calendars are public to at least some degree and disclosable. Their argument that he himself giving that determination doesn't mean that their refusal previously to give it is a violation doesn't make any sense. It seems like just CYA. Obviously, it is disclosable because they gave a written determination that the city attorney's office and various other offices should produce at least some information in the future calendars. However, unlike in the mayor, I don't yet have an order of determination from this task force that the city attorney's office needs to produce future calendar information, and that's why we're here today. I will probably make very similar arguments as I have in the mayor's compliance case when we start talking about details at the full task force. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, now we can hear from the respondent when Cheryl's ready.
Okay, can I go ahead?
Just a moment. What's your name again? Oh, Jen Court.
Yes.
Are you ready, ma'am?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Hi, good evening, Chair and members. As you heard, this complaint relates to future calendars during a 2-week period in October 2020 for former City Attorney Dennis Herrera. You've also heard at the time that this request came in, the City Attorney did not disclose future calendars due to security concerns. You've heard the 3 legal justifications we've cited for withholding future calendars, times mirror 6254F and evidence code. We'll get into those. But however, in early 2020, after receiving feedback on this topic from this task force and others, City Attorney's Office met with SFPD to see if there was a way to reevaluate the office's policy, try to provide information while still maintaining appropriate security. After receiving additional guidance from SFPD, we informed the petitioner that we would begin to release more information about future meetings on the city attorneys, including meeting attendees, the subject matter of the meeting, and the week the meeting would occur. To maintain adequate security and protect the well-being of the city attorney continues to withhold the exact date, time, and location of the future meetings under Government Code 6254F, K, Evidence Code 1040, and the Times Mirror decision. And I know I don't think anyone is comparing the city attorney to the governor, but I do just want to be clear that, you know, there are security concerns for the city attorney. I can't get into specifics, but there have been threats against the city attorney in the past. The office handles a variety of sensitive cases that can lead to pretty tense situations, and, you know, that can lead to threats. So do just want to be clear with that. And with that, we totally acknowledge that the task force has jurisdiction in this matter, and would respectfully ask that you find no violation here. And with that, happy to take any questions.
All right, thank you. And we may have questions. And now we'll go to the members. Anything. It seems like a lot of this is, you know, the kind of case we've seen these same issues before. So
I guess I have one question.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Maybe 1 or 2 for Ms. Court. So this was during the when the Sunshine Ordinance rules were, some of the time rules and certain other.
Can you guys hear me? Can I?
Let's delay everything for a moment. Everyone just got kicked out. Let's give everyone else a chance to get back in. I was kicked, and several other people were kicked off the application. So let's just hold on for a moment. Yes, if you let's just give everyone else a chance to call back in. I was cut off myself also.
Hi, this is Anonymous calling back in.
Yes, we were all cut off. So let's just give everyone a chance to log back in. We want to wait for I think we're waiting for member Wolf to log back in.
Would
If
it be
that is you,
possible
member
when
Wolf, it was all of us who got kicked. Oh, we just lost him again.
Hi, this is the complainant. Would it be possible when the committee reconvenes to explain what was happening at the end? Because I'm not sure if all the parties heard what was going on.
Victor would maybe understand better than I would, but yeah, we all I lost contact myself. I think just about all of us did.
Yes, there was a momentary cutoff, and I was just wondering, Mr. Wolf, are you back on? Sure. Member Wolf.
Yeah, under the circumstances, let's give it a minute or two. It looks like we have the parties here. The only person I believe we're waiting for is member Wolf. And also, I believe we were in the course of member Stein asking questions. I don't know if the full question was asked or if it was something where we were in the middle of an answer. So maybe
I didn't get any answer. I mean, I didn't hear any answer. I was cut off. And I don't know if the whole question was asked.
I'm sorry, Member Stein. Just so you know, I missed all of your questions.
Okay. I'll wait though until. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, do you want me to re-ask the question right now, Member Schmidt?
Yeah, why don't
or
we
wait?
I think we have waited for member Wolf, but he may check in, but I think we should go ahead and just note that I know he was having technical difficulties before, so let's go ahead and you ask a question, and then we'll go ahead with it. And if he comes back, we can deal with it then.
Right. So my question for Ms. Quart was during the time period for which these records were requested, was the city attorney holding in-person meetings or were the meetings online or remote?
You know what? That is a great question. As you probably know, I did not work in the office at that time. I do not know. I believe the city attorney was it was the policy of the office to hold mostly remote meetings. So I assume that the city attorney was abiding by that.
Okay, that was my only question.
May I suggest something?
Let's see. I'll allow. I believe Anonymous has a comment to make.
In order to help answer Member Stein's question, if they just add now it's long in the past, so I'm sure they can just add the calendar and you can see whether they were in person or virtual, right? So.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it would be useful, Ms. Court, like when this goes to the full task force, if this goes to the full task force, that the calendar is included.
Yes, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that this is a situation where we basically just have disagreement. I think the Times Mirror citation is definitely not. It doesn't come into play here. Whether the other protections come into play is a different thing. And we'll have disagreement, but I don't know if we really want to get too substantive today.
No, I'm happy to make a motion that these are public records under our jurisdiction and that we should send them to the full task force for consideration of the alleged violations.
Second.
Okay, the motion has been made. We have one other person on the line with us. If you'd like to make public comment at this time, you can raise your hand by pressing *3. There is no indication that they would like to make public comment at this time.
Okay, let's have a vote.
Member Stein?
Aye.
Member Stein, aye. Chair Schmidt?
Aye.
Chair Schmidt, aye. Member Wolf? Member Wolf?
Okay, he's. It looks like he's still having technical difficulties.
All right, so
Let's just have him marked as absent on that vote. And before we get to the next number, let's give everyone a 5-minute break.
Okay.
So let's go till 7:30. 7:30. We might have everyone here.
Should we do a roll call?
Yeah, let's do a roll call. That's a good idea.
Hang on a second. Member Stein?
Here.
Chair Schmidt?
Present.
Member Wolf?
You don't see any additional logins since our lap before the break.
Okay, let's go ahead. I think we just need to proceed.
All right, we do have quorum. Item number 9, file number 20121, complaint filed by Anonymous against Paul Miyamoto, Allison Lambert, and the Sheriff's Office for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6721A by failing to provide records without reasonable delay, 6721B by failing to provide a timely and complete response, 6721K by violating the CPRA incorporated by reference into the Sunshine Ordinance, 6725D as in dog by failing to provide rolling responses, 67.26 by failing to keep withholding to a minimum, 6727 by failing to justify withholding in writing, and 6734 for willful misconduct.
All right. Who do we have here on behalf of the respondents? Sheriff's Office, can you speak
yes.
Identify yourself?
Yes, this is Allison Lambert, a legal assistant with the Sheriff's Office, appearing on behalf of the Sheriff's Office.
Okay, great. Okay, so we have the parties ready to go, and 3 minutes each. Let's start when Cheryl's ready with Anonymous.
I am ready when you are.
Right. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much. This is Anonymous again. Very similar case, though a slightly different time frame. I think this is I asked for November 2020 records, future calendar records of the sheriff. They picked a different method of response than the other respondents. They argue that they can just release the calendar entries after the date of the meeting has occurred, which is essentially what the chief of police did, and you found that they couldn't do that. That's case 19112. The fact that a meeting date is not yet 3 business days in the past, as in the fact that it's not yet a property calendar, has nothing to do with the disclosability of a calendar entry. It is an unreasonable, somebody's speaking, it is an unreasonable delay to wait however long they did after my request and then just produce records as the date comes. The 3 business day requirement is an extra obligation, as in you have to have the calendar entries available 3 business days. That doesn't mean if I ask for calendars at the time that they're not yet property calendars, that they are not disclosable. Unlike the city attorney and the mayor, but like the chief of police, the sheriff is the head of a local police agency, so I don't dispute the applicability of 6254F to certain portions of these records. Someone is speaking.
Yeah, I'm not sure who's unmuted.
I apologize. I am inside a communal office, and I will ask them to hold it down. I am using a headphone set, but they're standing right outside my office. Apologize.
Thank you for explaining. Yes.
I stopped the timer.
Yeah, let's let Anonymous continue with his statement.
Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead.
Sorry, may I start?
Yeah.
Okay. I will make the same exact arguments I made for the chief of police. I don't see how the sheriff would be in any way different in terms of their security requirements or which laws would apply than applied to the chief of police. And just to remind you, you all agreed that the chief of police also needs to disclose. They can't wait till the date of the meeting. I I don't think there's any dispute that these are records regarding the conduct of public business that are public records or that you have jurisdiction. So I'll save all my actual arguments. I would ask, however, that you, in your motion, you ask the chair of the full task force to schedule all three of these on the same day. That way, everything about future calendars and the case law is fresh in everyone's mind, and we don't have to refresh that on 3 different meetings. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let me just note that Member Wolf has reappeared, and so we have everyone here now. Member Wolf, you did miss a vote. We're on the sheriff's case now, but I don't think it was controversial in any way. And so at this point, we can go ahead with hearing from Ms. Lambert.
Okay, I may proceed?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Chair Schmidt and task force members. I apologize. My first notification of this hearing was exactly a week ago. I had no idea that this complaint had even been filed, so I was trying to get up to speed within the last 7 days. We felt we provided timely responses, timely document production. It came in as an immediate disclosure request. We responded within 24 hours and explained that the mayor's proclamation had suspended the immediate disclosure request obligation. And from then we started to provide rolling records, just as Anonymous said. But after the date had already occurred, because I was working with our legal counsel to determine how I would be able to keep the sheriff's whereabouts safe. I had concerns about, were there going to be people trying to join into these Zoom meetings or attend these meetings? And I was still, while I was waiting to get counsel from our legal counsel, did release these records. We respectfully asked the committee find no violation, as we did produce calendars, and we're working with procedures with our legal counsel and city attorney for future calendar release. However, we are working on withholding the date, time, and location for safety and security reasons. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. So now we may have questions to the parties from members. Do you have anything for either of the parties? And again, this case is somewhat quite similar to the last two. The subject matter is very much the same kind of. The future calendars are the same issue.
I'm willing to make a motion that these are public records under our jurisdiction, and that we should forward this to the full task force for consideration of the alleged violations.
Second.
Okay, we can have a vote.
Hang on a second.
Public comment first, right?
Oh, I'm sorry.
We don't have too many people with us anymore, but if you do want to make public comment on this item, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 at this time. Or otherwise use the application to raise your hand. We have one person with public comment. One moment.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
It's David Pilpel. I don't have any comment. I'm just checking what item number you're on because I was away from the computer for a bit.
Number 9.
Thank you. That's all.
Okay, so no public comment. Let's have a vote.
I just want to make sure that I got everything Member Stein was saying.
Sure.
Public, there is jurisdiction forward to the task force. Did you have a recommendation?
No, just forward it to the task force for consideration of the alleged violations.
Okay. Okay, who was seconding? Dean, obviously, right? No, did Member Wolf second?
Member Wolf. Member Wolf seconded.
Member Stein?
Aye.
Stein, aye. Member Wolf?
Aye.
Member Wolf, aye. Chair Schmidt?
Aye.
Chair Schmidt, aye. Okay, we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anonymous. Item number 10, review and consider proposed efficiency edits to the complaint process.
Okay, so this is sort of open for discussion. The paper's all there in the file. I know a lot of it is my own writings, but I've gotten ideas from a lot of people along the way on trying to, refine these. I hope that this is a more of a something that can be, voted on, and it could be item by item, or it could be like just everything all together. But I'm interested to hear what other members might be thinking.
This is Member Stein. I found this really helpful just for concretizing what is, potential changes to our current procedures and literature, essentially. And I just have like a few comments on the different items, but I am pretty favorable towards moving them forward in their current form. But there's a few little things that I feel like could potentially be tweaked. On item 1C1, I think we make reference, or you make reference to 6721E, and just wherever possible, I generally prefer that, like, whatever the substantive matter that we're referencing is be mentioned by name, and then 6721E just be, put in there, so that someone who's reading it doesn't have to then go look for 6721E and figure out what it is and that kind of thing. So I would try to just reference the substantive concept that we think is applying there, and then put C 6721E in parentheses or something, rather than cut we cut sort of the process for reviewing. I think we could also incorporate that all reviewing members should agree on jurisdiction, the public nature of the information, and the merits of the complaint, potentially. Just kind of fold that into the reconceptualizing of C1. So that was my comment on section 1. On section 4, I think the wording was a little bit awkward on items 3 and 5. I think we say, the task force complaint is with the task force. To me, that just sounded awkward. I would say something like the task force questions the parties regarding the complaint for number 3, and for number 5, the task force deliberates and formulates motions regarding the complaint. And we don't have to change it, but it was just kind of awkward. I just want to make it very understandable to whoever's reading it, right? And then on section 5, number 1, do we want to say the committee conduct a hearing, or simply committees determine the following if SOTF has jurisdiction? And on number 7, item 5, should we recommend but not require the petitioners to attend? So those were my comments.
Item 5, number 7.
Yeah. We say they don't have to attend, but we might still want to recommend they attend, but not require them to attend.
Okay, I'm hoping that you can go back through, because I think on just about everything you said, I'm completely fine with it, and those are all great. There was one thing that I got a little bit lost on.
Which one?
And all those things make it better. But the one that I got lost on was after you talked about kind of making a different, referring to 67.21E in a different way. You then were, it was the next thing that you were talking about.
Yes, okay.
I got a little lost as to where you were.
Okay, sorry. So it's item 1 still.
Okay.
And I think what you do is you, and I'm not sure but that this fits, but basically you cut the material at the end where you say committee hearing schedule at the discretion of the chair. All complaints will be referred to conduct a hearing to determine if SOTF has jurisdiction, review the merits, issue a report and a recommendation to the SOTF. That was going to be cut, right?
Yeah.
And I think we could still just incorporate that into this new proposal that, you're going to have different members reviewing what should happen with the particular complaints, and that in the process of reviewing that, they would still have to agree that there was jurisdiction, the information was public, and there were merits to the complaint. So I'm saying possibly rather than cut that section, incorporate it into what we're saying the committee is now going to do when they review the petition. We're saying that they can direct it directly to a consent calendar, but we might still want to just include that they're still also just making sure that there's jurisdiction, it's public info, and the complaints have merit. I mean, I'm not married to that. That was my thought when I read it.
Yeah, I guess that's the one that I'm not quite sure how to handle it. I understand what you're saying. I think that what I'm kind of seeing is that the crux of what you're saying is that right now we have these hearings, these committee hearings, and we sort of have marching orders that we look at jurisdiction, we figure out if there's public records, and then we may or may not make a recommendation. And so those are sort of like the subject matter. I sort of, to me, I wasn't quite sure if we want to do anything in terms of like saying we're going to do this, but we're not going to do that, because it implies that these are like the only things we're going to do. And to me, I think that what I was doing was sort of like just replacing that with a different process. And I thought that the new process would be different, but anyone who's looking at this, whether it's, reading a file or whether it's, the chairperson of the whole thing, looking at it, whatever, but they're looking at the whole case. They're not saying, oh, is there public records? Are there public records? Is there jurisdiction? Am I trying to find a recommendation? They're just like basically looking at the whole case. To me, I guess I feel like even though that's what we do right now, I don't quite understand why. And I feel like every case I look at, I'm looking at the whole case, even though and so I think that's where I'm a little bit just unsure of why we need to delimit those three things, and therefore sort of like, someone somewhere along the way is going to say, well, I was only looking at those three questions, but I wasn't looking at something else.
Well, I completely agree with you. I don't think we should delimit to those three questions, but at least two of them maybe in this case, I think are still foundational questions. Do we have jurisdiction, and is it public information? Because that also might affect I mean, I just feel like all the members who are reviewing need to have that somewhere in their mind. Because if it's not there and we don't have jurisdiction, like that's just something I feel like they should be considering in deciding what to do with the cases. But maybe drop that last piece, because yes, we are considering the whole case, right? I would not delimit to that, but I feel like those are foundational questions that people should still have be evaluating for when they read these cases.
Yeah. I see Member Wolf. Yes.
So with regards to those three questions, yeah, I agree with that. But primarily also, when a committee is reviewing a complaint file, is to make sure that it's complete and that there's enough information that the information is clear. That's so that the task force isn't wasting time fishing around or missing vital information. So I think that is another component of this. But I have to tell you, I have a very difficult time kind of following the flow of this document because there are some sections that looks like that were meant to be struck out, but they weren't. So the same convention of underlining was not a strike through. And I just couldn't make heads or tails of what was being added, what was being removed. So take C1, for instance, everything that is in bold and underlined, is that to be added? And then what about at the very end? Is that to be removed?
Yeah. I thought that I had at the top somewhere.
You did say, yeah.
Yeah, I said deleted language is in italics, added language underlined.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was something I know it may not be like exactly the way. I don't even know if there's a book that says what the what the proper way to do it is, but I did try to section each thing off in a way that would designate what's going to be new and what's going to be removed.
Okay, yeah. So generally what is done, at least the conventions that the city uses, is anything that is supposed to remain stays in regular unstylized type, its original type. If you want to add something, it's italicized and underlined. If you want to remove something, it's strike through. Because it made it very, I couldn't quite follow what was happening here. And so now that I understand that, okay. Now in C1 is when it says when each petitioner's file is deemed ready for a decision, but a decision by who? By the committee or by the task force? Because C1 in the current hearing procedure, C1 is committee hearing schedule.
I would, that's the point, I believe, in my mind when I wrote this. That's the point where, fairly early on under the current process, we got 3 cases today that were deemed ready to a certain extent to be heard before this committee today. That's the point that I was referring to. So that would be basically like Cheryl. Cheryl would look at it. She'd say, okay, it's ready. We're going to put it on the calendar and we're going to put it before a committee. That's the readiness that I was referring to there.
But when you say reviewed by 3 task force members, chosen randomly and in rotation, I mean, chosen randomly by whom? And And if this is adding another process before it goes to committee, I'm concerned that task force members may be concerned about additional time. And because then the question then becomes, are they to then confer with each other for that review? And if they do, then that constitutes a committee meeting. So I'm a little, because it's, and then it says members at their option takes turns reviewing. Oh, and then confer to proceed per one of the following. I'm just, it's just feeling a little convoluted to me as to whether there's some serial meeting or discussions that are happening here. And then the question is whether it almost seems like that, why then have a committee hearing at all at that point?
That's kind of, I think that you're putting the things together, but there's something that I think you're not seeing, is that, yeah, we're sort of taking out the committee, putting it into a hearing in a committee where you have witnesses, et cetera, and we're only doing that in very limited circumstances under this plan. Because
Okay.
what my point is to start with is that because we have right now, every single case goes to a committee hearing, and then it goes to a task force hearing. And what I'm saying is that that's not viable right now. And so where do we cut back? And so I'm trying to basically cut back in one way on the committee hearings. And instead, people would take these files and read through and figure out what should we do with this one. And it doesn't go into a hearing. It's done in a much more, it's a much quicker fashion.
So you're talking about a more administrative process.
Yes, but with, it would be done by the members where, yeah, it's done. It's, I don't know, you could say it's administrative, but it's done in a way where we don't hold a formal, hearing with all the bells and whistles. We don't have to involve the clerk's office. We don't have to use up our allotment of 4 clerks meetings for all these committee hearings of cases.
All right. So for me, I'd like to see this in action in a mock procedure to be tested and troubleshooted before this is even presented to the task force. I'm concerned here that if we end up with another backlog, that we're gonna not be able to stay within the 45-day rule that the ordinance requires to find whether the records are public or not. Right now, that authority has been given to the committees in a public session. Here, this process is not public at all. The only thing that's public is after all this work is done. If it's deemed that there's a determination, then it would go to be put on a consent calendar or otherwise.
Well, I think that there's this strange idea to me floating out there that somehow a committee can satisfy the 45-day rule. I just don't get it, because the committees don't really do much of anything because they don't decide anything. And so 45 days, you're supposed to come up with a determination, and that's not, to me, what these committees are doing. So to me, I don't think that the 45-day rule is ever being satisfied. It's blown in every case by a long time. And that's by, going through, word by word, looking at the rule, etc. I know that somewhere along the way, someone thought, well, why don't we create these committees and tell them that they're doing what they're satisfying the 45-day rule, and that's going to be enough. But I don't think that satisfies the 45-day rule. Maybe I'm the only one. I don't know.
Well, the original, the way, when I first came to the task force, the complaint committee heard the entire file and came up with a determination, and then sent that determination up to the task force. And because there would have been this whole record that could be reviewed over the course of several weeks by task force members, as things were, because everything would happen pretty much, as it came through the door. Complaint came through the door, it immediately got scheduled to the complaint committee. And it was only the complaint committee. The complaint committee would hear it, and then come up with some sort of recommendation for determination with all the violations laid out. And then it would be scheduled for task force hearing. And there would be that period of time that the rest of the task force members could listen to the audio or what have you, or read the minutes. The minutes would be done, and review the entire file. So there would be lots of preparation time for the task force members for when it came to the full task force. And then they can just fly right through. Okay. As backlogs started to get created back in 2012 or so, the committees, more committees needed to be activated to be doing it. At the same time, there was complaints about staff and petitioners and complainants that have to show up to 2 meetings. And so we played around. The complaint procedure has been amended. I can't tell you how many times. We've tried it all different ways. Okay. So I hear what you're saying. You want to streamline it so that it's more of an administrative process per se, that then it kind of gets spits out at the other end. It either goes this way to the consent calendar, it goes this way straight to for a full hearing, or it doesn't get heard at all because it doesn't fly with the jurisdiction. Am I kind of getting the idea here?
That's a lot of it, what you just said. There's a few other smaller parts, but that's a bit of it. Yeah.
Okay, I get you. Okay, I'm gonna stand back. I gotta kind of get my head around this a little bit more, because I as I was reading this before the meeting, I couldn't quite understand what was going on in the formatting. So now that I understand, I just need a few moments to kind of get my head around it. Move on to whoever else, or if you want to open up for public comment. I don't know.
Well, that's important feedback too, to fix the formatting maybe for when.
I frankly, to be honest with you, I couldn't find in my Google Drive how you do line out, and I was probably
strike through.
Strike through, and I know how to do it in the others, but I couldn't find it. So I thought, okay, well, I don't have a lot of time here, so I'm just going to do something else, and then just say that's what I'm doing. obviously this is not going to be the final, but it is, at least something that maybe we can deal with the wording here. And I think, Member Stein had about 6 or 7 very specific.
Yeah, and the ones that I read out, I just emailed to you exactly as I read them out so that you have that as a reference too.
Okay. Got it. And I'm, except for the part where I took out committee hearing schedule and I substituted, whatever's above it, except for that, where I'm not quite sure how we deal with what your concerns were. And I'm fine. I don't mind adapting. But except for that, all your edits done. And so no problem. I like them. And so that's kind of like how this process is supposed to work is, I put this in front of you. You said, let's do these edits and we're in a hearing. And I say, for me, that's good. For you, that's good. Fine.
Yeah, I want to just throw in too, I feel like I think I would be in favor at the very least of committees being able to say, even if they're not ad hoc committees, but they're the standing committees, being able to say, we looked at this case, we think it's really straightforward, we think it's clear there's a violation. Committees should be able to potentially put things on consent calendar. And of course they can come off again, but if people think there's something there that was missed, but I would like to see that change because I think there are times when we end up with 2 full hearings that don't need to be there.
So let me ask in relation to that, what if one or the other parties objects to it be put in?
Then you can't put it, I guess, or I don't know. I mean, we'd have to think that through if somebody's going to object, but
because it's one thing when you're when there aren't third parties involved. Like, so when you look at the Board of Supervisors or some other commission and they've got a resolution, that it can go on to a consent calendar or not. But when you have a deliberate, kind of a quasi judicial process, that's why we, the consent calendar, the way we did the consent calendar part made it streamlined so that if the respondent had admitted non-compliance or no contest, then it was easy because you already had a party that consented. So there was no need to have a hearing. Here, you're basically having the task force members decide whether it goes on consent calendar. And I don't see a section that, for any kind of appeal by any of the parties.
Yeah, exactly. And that's different. But there is, some people may have a mindset that every single case needs to have a committee hearing and it has to go to task force, where there's another way in which other people might look at this and say, wait a minute, nobody ever in writing the Sunshine Ordinance, nobody ever said every case has a right to go before a hearing. And so if you think that every case has a right to go to a hearing, then you give every case a hearing. But I don't see why every one of these cases there is even, especially in a simple case, why do we even need to have a hearing on it? And that's a very fundamental question, but it's an important question.
Uh-huh. I hear you. I agree. I agree with you in concept. I don't necessarily, I'm not sure practically how that would work, except that the deliberations, there could be, if you instead of like in your C1, you can have 3 members, they can confer with each other, but it has to be done in the public view.
Why? Because it's a serial meeting? Because they're not a committee. They're not a committee. They're just 3 members.
It would be right. It would be considered a serial meeting. It would be contested. And I've already tried, as I mentioned in our last meeting, I've already tried to create work groups and was denied to be able to do that. That the work groups, all I wanted was to have work groups be able to work together. They could be observed, but they wouldn't necessarily require public comment. But they would have to be able to be publicly observed. People have to see the work happening in progress.
What if,
otherwise, hold on. Otherwise, you're going to get members of the public that are going to request documents, records from each one of those people as to their notes and any communications that they have made between whoever, whether it's the office, the administrator, or through to the chair or to anybody else. That's going to create a bit of mayhem too.
So one of the things that the Rules Committee was looking at in the one meeting that we had were ways to do things online that the public could observe and potentially even comment on. So I think this could be something that could be done where you have files that are online, you have space for people to give their comment or analysis. It could be open and viewable by the public. The public could make comments as well that you could look at. There's no reason this has to necessarily be done out of the view of the public.
I don't know that is. I don't know that under the Brown Act for the business of the meeting body that is. I don't know if that can be done.
Well, I'm just saying the Rules Committee was looking into that with respect to the annual reports, for instance, and they were conferring with, I think they were conferring with legal counsel and some other city agencies, not even necessarily in San Francisco, but that's just something they were looking at that would potentially be, like a sort of document space with shared ability to comment, which is public. I know what you're saying. I'm just saying that some places are doing it, and it's something to look at.
Well, I don't know I'd like to know what places are doing it, whether they're being challenged on it. But there's an assistive technology issue with that also, making sure that there's an ADA compliance on that. All right. So anyway, I think for at least C1, I'd like to see that in a mock setup to see how that would work in a mock way. I think passing this and trying to implement it is getting ahead. It's getting over our toes on it. Our skis, I guess is the term. Getting ahead of our skis.
What do you mean by that word mock?
I mean that that it be tested in not in it with official designation. That it be tested first to see if the process actually can work in the way that it's described. And then if it can be shown, and then you tweak it to see if whatever sticky spots there are, so that it's ready for prime time. I don't see. I just can't get a sense of how to implement this from day one and make it work. I would feel more comfortable having a few test runs on it to make sure that it does flow.
Well, I don't know exactly if that is, if I can see how that could work. I just don't, I mean, would you say like we take like half of the cases and we use this process and see, and then after 6 months, we decide, you know, whether we like it and then we apply it everywhere? Or are you saying like we somehow like do like a fake thing, like with fake cases?
Yeah, like a mock trial. But,
oh, okay.
Yeah,
well,
because I can't see how this gets implemented in a way that flows.
Okay.
And I would not use current files. I would use files that have already been closed. You know, so that we're not, you know, affecting, you know, live files. So yeah, I'm interested to see how this works, but I can't see implementing it. It's approving it as an implementable process right now.
I'm going to ask Member Stein, with that paragraph that we sort of were discussing, where you were talking about how it does say, you know, that jurisdiction is something that's looked at. Reviewing the merits is something that's looked at. And then whether there's public records is something to look at. What if we take those items, and I'm trying to like see if this satisfies your concern, and we say that, you know, anyone who is reviewing a file, that review will include the following. And so it's, you know, it's sort of like you know, you do everything, including but not limited to, including but not limited to. So we do say that those things are looked at, so that nobody's confused.
Yeah, I mean, that's
but we
what
don't limit anything to those things.
Correct. That's what I was suggesting.
Okay. So we could put that, you know, take those items, and we could say that, you know, in any time in this document where, you know, you're talking about people making decisions, looking at things, we would say, you know, they look at the case, including but not limited to the questions of, you know, recommendations on the merits, jurisdiction, public documents. That's fine with me. So, you know, I guess to me, that probably is pretty easy to, you know, take this thing as it's sitting here right before us and take what you just, you know, what we just were talking about, and take all the changes that you had recommended in toto at the start, and I'm good with that. I'm good with that. I think I'm ready to, you know, you know, I don't know what you're thinking at this moment, but you know, we've sort of worked through this, and I think that, you know, under the circumstances where, you know, today we've been talking about whether it's workable, but we haven't talked about the extent of the problem today. And I think that we need to, keep in mind, we don't necessarily feel it where, somebody has to wait 2 years to get their case decided. We don't feel it. We're task force members. It's not our problem. To us, it's the same. We could take 5 years. And I think the problem is real, and I think we had to put ourselves in the shoes of the public, who I don't think they're getting nearly what they could get. And so that's the impetus here. So that's my like speech on this. And so I'm open to doing whatever, but I feel like the task force in a group had an interest in these proposals. If they didn't like them, they didn't like them, but they sent them to us to try to give them something.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I can make a motion to forward this with the changes that I recommended to the full task force for consideration.
Second.
Well, I'm going to vote no on this because I don't feel that it's ready for prime time. I think making a presentation is one thing for people to consider, but I don't think it's implementable without testing it and troubleshooting it first. I hear what you're saying on the conceptual part, and I think there needs to be more discussion. I think this is premature because we haven't had that discussion on exactly what those issues are and where and why it's happening. Is there a bottleneck somewhere that we're not aware of? I don't think that analysis has been done. Is there a process that we are able to do out of the either out of the sight of the public or in the sight of the public without having a public interaction, so that they can just observe the work being done? Okay, for instance, like the Ethics Commission, they have their investigations unit. Okay, if they do their investigations in confidentially. If we generally don't do our discovery in confidence, we do it publicly. But it doesn't mean that there needs to be public interaction during that process. It can just be they can hear what we're talking about, as we're discussing it. I would suggest that it not be in writing, because that opens up a whole nother can of worms with regards to chasing down records from multiple different people. And then you have both the parties plus the general public asking for all the same things. I think that would be untenable. It would make things even more late, more take longer to get through, and it would make more work for the volunteer task force members. So I don't see that part helps. It streamlines one part, but then creates a problem in another part. So those are my reasons. I obviously, it's going to pass through the committee here, but I just have a lot of reservations at this time, and I think we need to have a task force wide meeting to discuss just conceptually where the problems are, because I don't think we've had really flushed those issues out and what the options are. Can we do it, and can we do work groups or not? Well, let's figure out truly where in the law says that we can or cannot have it. Okay, just because we have committees that are maybe a committee of 3, that doesn't necessarily constitute a quorum of the whole. So, if there's somebody's balking at us saying that, 3 makes up, you got to have a meeting if there's going to be 3. Well, where does it say that? Is that just in our bylaws, or is it in the ordinance, or is it in the charter? I think those issues need to be hashed out first. And I don't think we've not taken the opportunity to do that.
So I'll stop there.
Okay. Thank you. And that was, I appreciate the information. Yeah. Okay. So what I think we would do is I would ask for Member Stein's approval on an edited version, but I don't think that's going to be an issue. And so we will have something that will probably pass 2-1. And that would be something that we would then make it ready if it passes 2-1 to go before the task force to look at. So let's, I think we can hear public comment at this time.
Can you hear me now? Farrell, you're all set?
We can hear you. Yes.
Okay. David Pilpel. So a number of thoughts. I am not insensitive to the interest in changing things and speeding it up. I'm with that. But I think at this point, I would lean towards Member Wolf's concerns about not being quite ready for prime time. What I would suggest is there's a lot of verbiage in the packet material here, and it is a bit confusing, and some of it is out of date and superseded, and you took pieces of what some of the suggestions were and left others and tweaked it. So I would try to craft a latest and greatest version with kind of 3 sections. One is an overview and either description of the problem as you see it, or what the new concept is here and how that's different from the way things currently are. For the second section, I would include some examples, and I liked where Member Wolf was going, taking a dead file and saying, okay, if we had processed this file in this different way, this is how it would have rolled out, blah, 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 whatever. Real example. And maybe several examples, not at great length, but how you would handle a records issue that's not contested, or a records issue that is contested, or a meeting issue, the kinds of things that come before you, and how that would be different. And the third is to have just a very clean marked revisions version of the bylaws and the complaint procedures, not with any description of what it is or here's why or da-da-da, but just a strikeout version. New text in, struck out here, and so people can read it. They can decide that they love it, they hate it, or they've got issues with it, whatever, but at least that you can read it clearly. What does this do with C1-4? If you want to strike out the whole complaint process summary, and I'm good with that, then just line through all of that, blah, blah, blah. And whether this is ready to go out of the committee today or not is up to you, but when and if it does get to the full task force, I would have those pieces, have that in the packet, be ready to discuss that. I would definitely not put out a 10-day notice for the bylaw revision for September. I think that's premature. I would have a first pass discussion at the full task force. Are they with the program? And if not, what do you do to tweak it? And once they're with the program, then you put it out to sunshine both the text changes to the bylaws and separately the text changes to the complaint procedures. That's what I'm thinking, and perhaps that works in some way. And again, I appreciate the time, Chair Schmidt, that you put into this, and Member Stein on trying to get it right, and the caution that Member Wolf, hey, careful with that thumb. You don't know where that thumb has been. Watch it. I will stop it for the moment. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Okay, next, is there anyone else for public?
There are no people's online with us right now.
Oh, okay. Got it. Okay. So then I think what we have left is to vote on that.
Member Stein?
Aye.
Member Stein, aye. Chair Schmidt?
Aye.
Chair Schmidt, aye. Member Wolf?
No.
Member Wolf, no. 2-1.
All right. And I guess we can move on to the next item.
Item number 11, announcements, comments, questions, and future agenda items by members of the complaint committee.
I don't think I have anything.
I do not. This is Member Stein.
Same here. I don't know.
Okay.
Is that Member Wolf?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
do not.
He said he doesn't have anything to add on.
Okay. Okay.
So I don't know if we need public comment on that, but if not, we can move on to the next item.
Kind of want to about that.
Oh, sure.
Just about item 11 before, at the task force hearing this past 2 weeks ago, one of the things that Chair Yankee tried to make clear to people making public comment was that on the last item, on estimates, comments, questions, that it's for the members of the committee only.
Okay.
And so it might not be appropriate to ask for public comment.
No, there's only public comment if there was discussion or presentation by any of the task force members. If there was nothing presented, then there's no public comment. The argument that we get from the public is that they have a right to they claim that they have a right to have public comment on any item that is on the agenda as per the Brown Act. So it's questionable.
Okay.
We'll see how that goes as time goes on.
Yeah, I doesn't matter to me either way. I can see that it doesn't seem, especially if we don't do anything substantive. It's like, yeah, I can see not having public comment on it. But on the other hand, if the Brown Act says, item, and we call it an item, then maybe there's a contrary argument.
I'd make a suggestion, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Maybe to take this item and combine it with public comment. And, that way at the beginning of this item, that if there's anything that gets brought up, that, it'd just be general public comment, because it really is a general public comment section for the members of the, so you just have the members of the body speak first. And then you just have general public comment later, and they can comment on whatever was discussed during that item.
So during a committee hearing, to take the two items, which are what is right now the last item, and then follow it up immediately with general public comment. But with this item, would you say separate items for the two of them? You put them together.
One item. You just have the task force members or the committee members go first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you just open it up for general public comment after. Okay. And then if folks want to comment on what was said, or add, something unique, something different, as we do for regular general public comment, they can. Because the items in this have nothing to do with the current agenda. They They're independent of the current agenda. And that just, I think that could help solve the problem. I don't know, it just came to me now. I thought.
I like it. Can we have a motion on that since we're still here? I'm fine with that. And then we'll have public comment on the motion.
Yeah, we will have public comment on the motion for sure. So I move that the complaint committee combines this item, which is the item just before adjournment, combines it with public comment that is, and brings it up to the public comment. How do I say this without being so explanatory? Combine. So let's see. So to combine public comment with announcements, comments, questions, and future agenda items by members of the complaint committee, where the members of the complaint committee speak first, and then general public comment will be open under the same conditions to address matters that are within the committee's jurisdiction but not on today's agenda, or that was discussed during this period. I don't know how else. I'm getting a little tired and a little tongue-tied here.
I believe we understand the concept.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and draft it for the next meeting and implement it for the complaint committee. If that works out, then we will work with the other committees to try to get them to implement the same procedure, but we'll test it at the next meeting.
Okay, great.
I second it.
I have one public commenter on the matter.
Comment on that public comment item.
David Topel again. So I wasn't planning to speak, but now that you've got a motion, by way of background, this is different from general public comment. This item has a long history, long ago, far away. There's really no opportunity for members of this committee to comment on things that are not on the agenda other than in this little space. So you may say, just as the three of you did 2 minutes ago, I have nothing more tonight. I've got no future agenda items. I've got nothing to announce. I'm good. In which case, you're good. And that's it. And you open it up for public comment. I would have had nothing to say, and we're all done. I think you may have found a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. That's in the instance where you've got nothing to add. However, if something came up during the meeting where you said, you know, I think we've identified a problem based on one of these items, I think we should open up a hearing on blah, 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 calendars or email or whatever. I don't want to talk about it tonight, but let's set up a file for that and put it on the list and hear it either next month or at some point in the future. Or, hey, I'm going to a conference on Saturday about open government, and I thought people should know. There you go, whatever. It's just a catch-all category that was primarily intended to allow members of the task force or this committee to just share things. And if a member of the public wants to say, hey, I think you guys should really think about reviewing the complaint procedures again with an angle toward da-da-da-da. I know it's not on the agenda tonight, but in the future, and you say, thank you very much. And you either say, yeah, let's put it on the list, or next caller, right? It's just another opportunity different from public comment earlier. And I don't feel that strongly, but I think it's worth keeping the way it is, and it shouldn't be a problem. If you're all at the end and there's nothing to add, then we're all done and there's nothing to add. So I would argue against the change, leave it the way it is, and then hopefully it only gets used in a limited fashion and That's it. I'm talking too much about something we shouldn't even be talking about. I'm done. Thanks.
Geez, didn't mean to open a can of worms like I did.
Mr. Chair, if I can respond to the public comment.
Sure, that's fine, member. Go ahead.
David, I completely understand what you're saying. I agree with you. Okay. The issue that comes up with this is we have some members of the public that feel if the task force members have nothing to say, that it gives that they have license to make public comment, to add to on any of those subject matter of this item. And that is what has been in contention. And so what I'm saying is either you put it at the top and combine it with general public comment, and if folks on the committee or the task force have something to say, then you've got the whole public comment section for folks to comment on it. But I get your point that at the end of the meeting, if something comes up, that you want to have some open space, general space, to be able to have some flexibility for the task force members to speak a little more freely. I guess the question is as the Brown Act is written, it states there should be public comment on any item that is on the agenda, whether it's the discussion only or not. Our practice is to allow public comment. If there's nothing discussed, can we block or prevent public comment at that point? And that's been the contention. I'll stop there.
Can I make a brief follow-up? I promise.
Yes.
Brief.
Yes.
I encourage it. I'm encouraging it. Thank you.
See, there you go, encouraging it. I think the difference is with general public comment, you give people a wide berth and a long leash. On something like this, just like public comment on a specific agenda item, I think you give them a very short leash. And if they start saying, I want to go off on da-da-da-da, you say, no. We're only talking about the things that members raised. If you get off that, we're just going to cut you off, right? You give them a very small berth on something like this. That's the difference. And if people don't like it, sorry, that's the trade. That's how I see it. Hope that helps.
Okay, I think well stated, everyone. Let's go ahead with our vote.
Well, Mr. Chair, I'm inclined to rescind it at this time. I think maybe I want to sit on it, on the thought. I think it was a good thought that came off the top, but I think I'm being influenced by Mr. Pilpel's thoughts on it, and I think maybe if anything, what we should hold is that with this item, that if there is nothing brought up by the committee members, then there's no public comment. It's not a general, another second, a second bite at the apple for public comment, as what we've been experiencing at the task force from time to time. So I'll rescind it at this time.
Motion withdrawn. All right. I think we can move to the next item.
Item number 12, adjournment. I have 8:45 exactly. Who moves?
I move to adjourn. Member Stein.
Second.
Okay,
Second.
Is that Chair Schmidt second?
I think that was maybe Member Wolf.
Member Wolf, was that your second?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone.
Bye all.
Have a good week.
Take care.
Hey, Victor.
Second.